I'm Julia at the Greenville Springs branch of the East Baton Rouge Parish Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make a wizard Feltie. Your kit should contain 2 robe pieces, 2 hat pieces, a piece of embroidery floss the same color as the robe, front of the hair, back of the hair piece, and a beard piece, a piece of embroidery thread the same color as the hair, front of the head and back of the head, 2 hand pieces, and a piece of embroidery floss the same color as the head. 1 small bag of polyfill, 1 popsicle stick, craft stick, for stuffing, 2 round sequins, a handful of small star sequins, and 3 larger star sequins, and a packet containing 2 needles and 6 pins. I'm going to start out by lining all of my pieces up in order. Starting from the back, I'm going to lay the back of his hair down, put his head on top of that, lay the robe down there. I'm going to try and get it all straight so that the hair lines up with the robe and that the head is centered. And now I'm going to pin the head to the hair and the head to the robe, the hair to the robe down here. This will keep these lined up while we sew. Now I'm going to lay the top of the robe, his face, his beard, and the front of his hair out and line them up. Now I'm going to take my piece of embroidery floss, it's the same color as his hair, and I'm going to pull 1 strand out. I'm going to take my hair colored thread, trim it short or trim it neat, and thread my needle with it. You can see here that I've started stitching at the corner of the hair. I'm going to stitch all the way along the hairline at the front. I'm not going to stitch up around the top of the head. I will save that for later. Over here, I have started stitching from the top of the beard. I'm going to stitch down the side of the face and continue on stitching to the robe, all the way down, all the way back up. You might want to take a few stitches at the chin area to make sure that it stays in place when you go to stuff it. All right, I've got the beard sewn all the way on. I can take these pins out also. I'm going to tie this off by going back through that loop there, not going all the way through, going through the loop you make there, making a knot. And since I've got not a lot of thread left, I'm just going to take it over and use the same thread to sew the hair onto the back of the wizard. You can if you don't have as much thread left, you can just start a new piece of thread. But over here, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to start near the bottom, do exactly the same thing to sew the hair onto the robe. You can see I've got sewn all around the bottom edge here so that it looks like this on the side that's going to be on the inside of the doll. You're not going to see this side. I'm coming around and making very small stitches on the outside of the fabric And I'm going to come back up around and stitch around the edge of the head. I've gone all the way around the head. You can see on this side very clearly. On this side you can't see much at all, but that's kind of how we want it. And again, I'm just going to tie off my thread. Same way. Go through my loop here and go through the loop that makes. I've got the front and the back sewn. And if you'll notice that we are missing the hat, so we're going to pin that on now to make sure it lines up. So I've got the front piece, I'm lining it up, making sure it's pointing opposite the beard, and pinning it down so that the sides of the triangle kind of hit right about like that. Now I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to line the hat up to match on the other side and pin it. Now I'm going to take my robe colored thread and just stitch the hat onto the front and back like you saw me do before with the beard and the hair. I'm just using a different color thread. So I've got everything sewn, lined up and sewn up. Pins are out. I'm going to take this opportunity to decorate my wizard a little. I'm going to add his eyes and some sequins to his robe. I'm going to be using sequins to make his eyes. So I'm going to sit my sequins where I want them. Wiggle it until I can come back up through. Pull it tight to the knot on the back. I'm going to do something called a French knot to secure the eye. I'm going to take my needle, hold near the base of the thread like this, and I'm going to wrap it several times around the thread. And then I'm going to go back down into the hole of the sequin. I'm going to hold on to this part of the thread here. I'm going to pull down and then let go. And it is secured. I'm going to do that with my other sequin. So now I've got my wizard's eyes on. I'm going to do the same thing to add some stars to his robe. And maybe a couple to his hat. I've got my 3 big stars here and a handful of little stars. And I'm just going to be doing the same thing and using a French knot to secure each one. If the stars are giving you trouble, if they don't want to stay on with just the French knot, you can either sew around from the center around to the edge of the stars, or you can just use a dab of glue, whatever kind you have, to secure the knot in place. So I've got my wizard all shiny and decorated, and I'm going to line him up and start sewing the edges together. I'm going to start down here at the bottom, about halfway across. When I come back down this side, I will have this much space to stuff, and I'm only going to go through one side of the fabric. I'm going to go from the middle to the outside so that I can tuck the tail of my thread up into the middle. Now I'm going to come around right back through precisely and tie it like that so that it lines up with the rest of my stitching. I'm going to stitch using something called a blanket stitch. So I'm going to go around the edge like that. So I came out on the front, I'm going to go back around to the back, around the edge, come through, but instead of pulling this completely tight, I'm going to go through that loop so that now when I pull it, it lines up on the edge. Come back around to the back, go through, come through my loop. Tight, can you see what it looks like there? And I'm just going to do this all around the sides. I'm going to stop and come back when I've got to here, and I'm going to show you how to sew the hands in. I've got the wizard sleeve sewn up to halfway over here, and now I'm going to tuck in one of the hand pieces, like so. And I'm just simply going to sew around and through, like this. I'm going to come through in the blue, come up, pull it all the way out, go just above it, through the hand, hold tight, come a little farther over, and once I've got that sewn in, I'm just going to continue doing my blanket stitch until I reach the shoulder. Now I'm up here at the shoulder. I'm going to do one last blanket stitch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the hair back so that I am just going through the robe, stitching up to the neck. I'm going to tie my thread off. I'm going to tuck the ends down in the middle there. I'm going to switch over now to a piece of brown thread. I'm going to start it off picking up a little bit of felt on the inside there, run through, go around, pick it up on the back side to come through, and pick it up for a blanket stitch. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in between the hair and the face, pull it like that, and pull it down. This is why we left a little bit of room here on our seam. And I'm just going to go up the side of the face until I reach the hair. I'm going to do a little stitch of white, much the same way. I'm going to come around again with my blue thread to go around the hat, go back to white, come down the same way with brown, and finish it off with blue. And so I'm just going to stitch all the way up to here with the skin color, switch to a little bit of white, blanket stitch the edge here in the hair color, switch colors back to the robe color, edge out the hat, back to the hair color, back to the skin color, come down the same way I'm going up on that side, and finish it off going around with the robe color, again stopping to sew in the other hand right here at the end of the sleeve. I've got all of my wizard's edges sewn together now, except for this one space right here at the bottom, and in here I'm going to start adding polyfill. It'll be in your little baggie like this. I've got a popsicle stick. I'm going to use that to help myself stuff. I'm going to pull off little bits, sort of squish them up, and feed them into my hole here at the bottom. Use my popsicle stick to help me push them all the way up to the top. All the way up into the wizard's hat. I'm just going to keep adding fluff and stuffing it up. Some of it you can use your fingers for some of it. Getting it down, moving it down into his sleeves. I'll show you how to close him up as soon as I'm done. Now that I've got him all stuffed, I'm just going to close him up with some more blanket stitches. Tuck your ends in. I'm just going to tie off my thread, going through one more time, right on top of the last stitch, and go through the loops, pulling it tight. And then send your needle through, so it pokes out the other side, squish it a little, and snip it off. So that when you push it back up, your thread disappears. And now you've got a wizard.